My name is Kim Snooks and I'm a postdoc researcher working as part of the Digital Good Network core team to explore good digital identity futures. This research is being done in the Imagination Lab at Lancaster University with Dan Richards. As part of this project, we've been running a 1-month artist residency programme with 3 international artists around the theme of digital identities over time. And this has culminated in an online exhibition that is now open to explore. As part of this exhibition and alongside the artist's works, we have created a series of what we call metaphor spaces that visitors of the exhibition can walk through and explore. In this video, we want to provide a bit of context for why these were created, what they are intended to communicate, and why we think they are useful in considering futures of good digital identities. Metaphors can help us make sense of abstract terms through familiar concepts. They are also commonly used to explain aspects of technology. For example, think of terms such as a computer virus to indicate a computer is not functioning properly, in other words, infected or sick. Equally, metaphors can be used to describe less understood technologies like big data, which can change the narrative about how we view data. For example, data as the new oil, viewing it as a valuable resource. Once you start looking for them, you will see them everywhere too. For example, social media bubbles, data streams, the cloud, data pipelines. These metaphors are rarely perfect, but they do 2 things that are useful for envisioning the future. Firstly, the reach past the technical jargon involved, allowing people to understand and discuss underlying concepts and affordances of emerging technologies. Secondly, they allow us to critique the mismatches between concept and real-world systems to address issues relating to things such as the environment and societal impact. An interesting thing that we have learnt throughout this project is that there is a surprising lack of metaphors applying to digital identities at this time. Specifically, when we talk about digital identities today, we tend to do so through the lens of digital identity as a digitised passport. This lens suggests that these digital identity systems are relatively neutral, merely providing more convenient ways to access common physical documents. The problem with this lens is that it oversimplifies and glosses over a raft of deep social issues that require our attention. Indeed, we have seen from the deployment of these technologies in other countries that digital identities can have far-reaching societal implications related to access, privacy, control, and power. So the answer to why metaphor question is that we think a wide range of metaphors would help us collectively consider alternative futures of digital identities that both address and acknowledge the deeper societal challenges of these technologies. The next question we want to answer in this video is why metaphor spaces and what are they intended to do? When you visit the exhibition, you will enter a digital space and be able to walk around as a digital avatar. This is the landing page, and as you can see, there are lots of themes and connections being shown. These themes represent connections between the artist's work, and you can use this page to jump directly to each of the 3 artists' work by walking into their icon, which will transport you into the space where their artwork was created for the exhibition. Alternatively, you can take the scenic route and walk through our metaphor spaces that have been created to reflect insights gleaned from a variety of engagements, workshops, conversations with academics and industry over the past year. These metaphors represent a diverse range of perspectives, highlighting our concerns, dreams, nightmares for the future of these technologies. We think it's important to discuss this now before these technologies are fully implemented within this country, where it is hard to shift the narrative and influence the futures we want to see. Our intention here is not to create perfect metaphors, but to create metaphors that can help provoke debate about the reality of these digital identity systems and to help us question what we want from such systems, if anything. So now we're going to move through each of the exhibition spaces and briefly introduce them. If you visit the exhibition yourself, you will also find whiteboards in each of the spaces, so you can share your own interpretations, critiques, or suggestions for better metaphors here, and we would love to hear them from you. So to enter the exhibition this way, we just go through this icon. This space discusses the metaphor digital ID as a Grim Reaper. This relates to ideas about our digital identities after we are gone, transitioning our identity between life and death. thinking about the preservation of our identities and the different use cases for this. Specifically here, we are questioning whether it is useful for digital identities to be archived in some form to support remembrance, how this might impact our current legal processes, and the capacity of these afterlife identities to connect us to our past and heritage. These ideas draw on conversations and literature around what it means to manage and curate personal data, but is intentionally looking beyond the technical challenges associated with making systems secure and cost-effective. This leads to questions of whose identities are preserved, who might be missing from those archives, and for what reasons, and who has the power to control these decisions in and after life. Here we present the metaphor of digital ID as a story. Within many different cultures, telling stories is a good way to connect to our past and understand our identities. Can digital identities help us connect to our cultures and share stories with each other, keeping these past identities alive? Might these also support identities from non-Western perspectives, such as considering spiritual identities, place identities, or thing identities? This stems from the differing ways identity is represented in Western contexts compared with other parts of the world, and intends to challenge the typical ways identity is represented and remembered. Rather than viewing identity as something to be based on truth or proof and facts, what are the more slippery notions of identity, such as connecting to identity through storytelling, allowing us to explore aspects of our local histories and what might be useful factors when thinking about how our identities are remembered? Digital ID as an enforcer addresses the political nature of digital identities, highlighting fears and challenges associated with stringently reinforcing binaries and using these systems to restrict and exclude those considered undesirable. This space also questions the notion of consent in these systems when operating at scale and pervasively within society, and the potential to harm the most vulnerable members of our society. This metaphor seeks to centre the political dimension of these technologies and to provoke debate about who these systems are good for and what different forms of utility might be provided by these systems and for whom they benefit. Here we present digital ID as a gold star, where digital IDs recognise and celebrate achievements in much the same way as publicly facing social media profiles. This metaphor seeks to question the impact of digital IDs becoming more social, connected and integrated with our social media applications. Might they streamline job applications, creating opportunities for business to further utilise our data to provide tailored advertisements? And does this lead to social credit-based systems that seek to compare, rank and monitor, or perhaps these systems might fuel third-party predictive services to anticipate our needs ahead of time? In this space, we're thinking about digital ID as a tide. We have spent a lot of time thinking about the speed of rolling out these technologies, the transition between low and high adoption, and questioning who benefits from fast and slow adoptions and how. Who is left behind in the process, and how do we make sure these systems support all who will need to use them, considering not just the technology itself, but also citizens' rights? This is acknowledging that while these systems are not intended to be mandatory, some people will not be given a choice to consent in these systems if they are used to provide different levels of access, for example, migrant populations. So this metaphor is intended to shift the focus from considering the impact of digital identities where everyone has them, and redirect the focus onto the transition itself. Here, we are introducing the metaphor of digital ID as a Tamagotchi. Tamagotchis are toys that stem from the 1990s and early 2000s. They are a small physical device with buttons that allows you to interact with a digital pet. This metaphor intends to question what might large-scale commercial adoption of digital identities look like in the future, and how do we imagine people interacting with them? Might digital identities be like Tamagotchis, pet-like handheld entities that are perhaps empowered by users to complete certain tasks for us, like queuing for concert tickets, automatically verifying our age, updating employment information when triggered by connected contracts? Might future digital identities be more playful, gamified, capable of providing new forms of personal AI-powered assistance in completing real-world tasks and activities? and how might these forms of interaction change the way we use and consider these things folding into our lives. We've now shown you all of the metaphor rooms. We hope that this gives you an insight into different considerations of good digital identities and who these might be good for. Feel free to explore the space and the exhibition by the QR code or the link in the description, and thank you for watching.